Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about something I got into on my TikTok, and that is what it is really like to grow up with a bougie black mother, specifically a toxic bougie black mother. And I don't know if you can be bougie and be non-toxic. We use bougie in a very different way now. Like in the past, I would say like 7-8 years, bougie has come to mean you like the finer things in life, you know, you like luxury, or, you know, quote unquote soft life, material girl. Before the Migos kind of rebranded the word bougie, the original definition came from the word bourgeoisie, which was to call somebody who was of the upper class or like the white collar social class. And it always had a negative context with it. If you called someone bougie, that meant you were calling them pretentious, superficial, materialistic, wasteful. It wasn't ever a compliment. Like when I was growing up, people didn't refer to themselves as bougie. Like even if you were bougie, you did not proclaim yourself as bougie. If somebody called you bougie, it meant that they were calling you stuck up. So when I say the word bougie, I really do mean it in its original negative context. That's how I'm using it in this video. I was really taken aback by so many comments of people saying they related to what I was saying. Also, a lot of y'all's comments, I could relate to what you guys were saying, giving your own experiences. I'm not even gonna lie, it kind of triggered me. That's why I kind of got off TikTok for a while and people were asking for a part 4, but I was really getting like heart and chest pains because I was being reminded of things that I had kind of suppressed and forgot about, and I was like, oh, I gotta gather myself, I gotta get myself together and recalibrate. I felt like this video needed a long format version because this subject is so layered that there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of explanations that need to go into it. Also, TikTok is always acting up and you never know if a video is going to really stay up forever. So I just want it to be on YouTube where it can permanently stay for people to have access to. Like I said in the TikTok, if your mom ever reminded you of Lynn Whitfield in like any movie she's ever played in, this video is for you. I really want to know, like, when did Lynn Whitfield discover that she had such a knack for playing somebody's evil ass mother? Like, she does it so well. I just want to talk about this because it's a very specific thing, and sometimes it can even be hard to talk to other Black people about this experience. Sometimes it gets glazed over because people just feel like, well, you had a nice life or you had a lot of material things growing up, so how could you be traumatized by your childhood? How could you have been abused? How could any of this have happened to you? I don't believe you. You had a nice house. You had a pool in your backyard. There's no way you were getting molested. You know, people really like feel this way. They think if you grew up in the suburbs, then like there couldn't possibly have been anything bad that happened to you. And you know, that's not the truth. Just in case somebody I know is watching, I'm not just talking about one specific person. This is like an amalgamation of traits that I have noticed with women like this. I don't know if it's just me, but I am constantly like studying people's behavior and like noticing patterns with certain people and like keeping track of this. So this is 29 years of me observing every single person I have ever come across in my life, and also talking to other people who have come across the same type of person as well. And also, I am not playing the trauma Olympics. I'm not going to be saying that this type of mother is the worst mother to deal with and we had it the worst. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to compare people's childhoods and upbringings to one another and weigh out which one is worse than the other. Like, I'm not doing that. So toxic bougie moms like these, they definitely have narcissistic traits. I'm hesitant to just say they're all narcissists and they all have NPD because once again, you have to be diagnosed to, you know, put that label on somebody. And of course, a lot of our parents, they will never get counseling because they think nothing is wrong with them. So you will never know for sure. But like if your mom is definitely checking off on like 7 out of the 10 symptoms for NPD, then you kind of know what's going on. If you've ever listened to any type of YouTube video or podcast talking about narcissistic mothers and it feels like it's describing your mom to a T, you kind of have a good inkling of what's going on. Also, there can be other personality disorders going on with somebody and the symptoms can overlap with narcissism, or they can have two different diagnoses going on at the same time. Once again, you might not ever know if they don't ever go and see somebody and get, evaluated. Also, people who are actively in addiction can definitely show narcissistic traits, but if they were to cure that addiction, they might not be so narcissistic. So it really just depends. But if you listen to this whole video and you feel like I am describing your mother to a T or very similar, just know something's going on there, babes. That's not normal. It's always the ones who need to go to therapy who don't actually go. Another trait with toxic bougie moms is that image is everything, and they spend a lot of effort curating that image. They will make sure that they always have nice clothes, they always have the designer bag, they have the new car, they have the nice house. House is always immaculately decorated, the kids are always in new clothes, you always have new toys. It looks great, but it is a facade. They will even be super involved with their children's activities outside of school. They'll be head of PTA, they'll be heads of charities, they'll be very involved in the community. It just seemed like really awesome, great people. From the outside, everything just looks perfect, but behind closed doors, they are literal monsters. A lot of women like this, they have serious anger issues. I would even say rage. I think anger is almost an understatement. They're also very emotionally unpredictable. So everyone kind of walks on eggshells around them because you just never know how they're going to react. Anything that has to do with appearing to be a good mother, like the superficial aspect, the things that you can put on display for other people, they're really only concerned with that. You can always have the new pair of Jordans, but a tooth that needs a filling can go 3-4 years with being neglected. They're just not really concerned with the things that people don't see. Moms like this can be very emotionally distant. It can almost feel like you're not related to them. I know for me growing up, I used to question if I was adopted because it felt like my mom didn't really have any real connection with me. I kind of just felt like I was a kid that she was taking care of because I got dropped off here. The way that they care for you can be very utilitarian. It's like, okay, what are your physical needs? Even if you get sick, they might take care of you if you get sick, but anything outside of physical material is not dealt with. There is no hugs. There is no I'm proud of you, I love you. There is no comforting when you are upset. A lot of them do associate love with material things, physical goods, material things. I can see it, I can hold it, I know how much it costs, so I know its value. So they can understand giving those things as showing affection or love. But real love does come from the heart. It's something that you cannot always see, but you can always feel it. Have you ever gone into somebody's home and it might not be the most aesthetically pleasing house, it might not be the biggest house, but when you go into that house, you can feel the love. You can feel the love that the parents have for one another. You can feel the love they have for their kids. You can feel the love that the kids have for each other. You feel the love. It feels like such a welcoming place. And that's very different from growing up in a home which maybe aesthetically looked amazing, immaculate, everything brand new, new furniture, curtains, everything gorgeous, but it was cold. It was just void of love. It was void of warmth. It was void of affection. And it didn't matter how gorgeous everything looked. That lack of love, growing up, you can feel it. Growing up, I never wanted to be at my house. I never wanted to be at my house. And everyone wanted to come to my house because they thought my house was cool. They thought my house was pretty, right? And I never wanted to be there because it was this emptiness there. It felt cold. I used to cry when I would have to be picked up by my mom to go back home. And people just thought maybe, I don't know, they probably just thought I was a big crybaby. But really what it was is I knew what I was going back to. I knew the reality of what was going on behind closed doors. So yeah, of course I'm crying because I don't want to go back to being abused. Parents like this, they seem to always be very uncomfortable with their children's emotions. They can be very emotional and explosive, but you cannot be emotional. They get very awkward. I know even growing up, my mom didn't talk to me about the talk. She didn't give me a puberty talk. She didn't give me friend advice. She didn't give me dating advice. She didn't even really give me life advice. She didn't really talk to me like at all about anything. But what she would do is talk to me about her problems and, you know, emotionally dump on me and talk about my family and talk about my dad and whatever. But if it was like my turn to share or try to open up with her, none of that is going on. Not happening. Actually, I'm going to get up and leave because now I feel uncomfortable. So you learn at a very young age that you cannot rely on these people for your emotional needs. Intimacy, warmth, affection is pretty much non-existent. And because these women are so image conscious, a lot of them, in my opinion, are shopaholics. A lot of them are very financially irresponsible. They will go broke trying to look rich. And the ones that are already broke will go into more debt trying to keep up with other people, trying to keep up with their circle of women, you know, because they can also be very competitive. They're definitely the type to live in a big house or live in a luxury apartment, but the water keeps getting cut off or the lights aren't on or there's no furniture in the family room. Because it's not really about really having it. It's about appearing like you have it. And it's like, damn, like if you were going to pretend to be rich, why couldn't you pretend like the good parts of being rich, like investing and saving? But once again, nobody can see your investment account. Nobody can see your savings account. You have to like wear your wealth, quote unquote wealth. It has to be shown to people. I know that there is a long history of Black people being deprived of material wealth. And I feel like culturally, that's why a lot of us tend to associate material items and buying material items and giving material items as giving love. Or having a lot of material items gives you this feeling of being a higher value person or being better than other Black people. Look how much I have accumulated. I have more than you, so therefore I am better than you. And unfortunately, just a lot of these attitudes get passed down from generation to generation to generation. And I feel like a lot of us who had moms like this, we learn at a young age to lie, specifically to lie for them to protect their image. They have no problems with making you compromise your integrity. These women are also not above lying, cheating, stealing, committing fraud to keep up with their lifestyle. I actually knew somebody when I was older, you know, housewife, you know, perfect image on the outside, cute kids, gorgeous home, husband was working like a corporate job or whatever. Come to find out a few years later, I just decided to Google her. I don't know why. She was in jail for check fraud. And I was like, oh my God. And she was doing it to supply this facade lifestyle that she had going on. She had to keep up the lie. Women like this will also put their children in danger for the sake of staying in a relationship or maintaining a lifestyle that they don't want to give up. They will stay in abusive relationships if the man has money. Also, if they're a single mom, they're quick to bring their children around men without properly vetting them because they're really desperate to get that title of wife or to be somebody's girlfriend of someone who has prestige or money or power. A lot of moms like this will also just like up and move their children and like move in with a guy that they don't even really know that well just because he has money. And once again, they don't properly vet these people who are around their children, and things happen. Children end up getting physically or sexually abused. And sometimes the mothers know this is happening or they have an inkling that something is wrong and they choose to ignore it because they don't want the gravy train to stop. That storyline in Tyler Perry's Medea's Family Reunion, that stuff actually happens in real life. I know of people that has actually happened to. It wasn't as dramatic, but it happens. I feel like sometimes people just assume that incest, sexual abuse, physical abuse is like only going on in less aesthetically pleasing homes, but that's not the case. And the thing is, if somebody has money, it's a lot easier to cover up your dysfunction. It's a lot easier to create a facade, and people really will never know what's going on behind closed doors. But unless you actually live in that home when no one is around, you have no idea what's going on. Others like these also tend to be very controlling. They're kind of like dictators. They want everything to go their way, and if it doesn't, all hell is going to break loose. And if they are married, they usually tend to marry men who are more passive and just let them do whatever they want, or they marry men who are workaholics, so the man will just be out of the way. So there's no other adult around to really challenge them or be like, hey, don't do that to my children, or like, hey, what's wrong with you? It can be hard having a dad like this because they're around, but it's like they're not around. They're not really there. And they will just let your mom pretty much do and say whatever she wants to you. And there is no fight back because he doesn't want to feel her wrath. It's like everyone in the home is scared of her and just allows her to perpetuate whatever it is she wants to do. They don't want to feel the heat from the dragon lady either, so it's like it might as well be you and not me. Moms like these are also bullies. They will pick on their children, especially if you're the child who challenges them the most. If you are a truth teller and you really see your parent for who they are, you will become their number one target because you jeopardize their false sense of self. They will really try to do anything in their power to basically deplete you of any type of self-esteem. So they will gaslight, they will manipulate, they will also make fun of you when your friends are around and act like they're joking, but you two don't have a relationship like that, and it feels very intentional. They kind of just try to do everything to deplete you of any type of self-esteem. And just overall, they're very critical of their children. It's like you can't do anything right, or if you did do something right, you should have done it better, or they always have something to complain about. And another thing is they shame you for not knowing things that you were never taught. Now that I'm an adult, looking back, it felt like my family, especially my parents, they wanted me to have the emotional regulation, the common sense, the decision-making skills of a 20-year-old when I was like 10. And now I understand like those standards were so impossible to meet because they compared me to an adult when I was a child. So instead of being taught how to do things, I would make a mistake and then be shamed and be told, you should know better. How do you not know this? Why are you so stupid? I would really feel that way. I would feel so guilty and I would internalize that shame. And it took me years to really undo a lot of that shame and guilt that I would carry around and the fear of making decisions because I was always told that I don't know what I'm doing. Mothers like these can be very manipulative, and this is why it's so hard when you're growing up trying to challenge them because you know something is not right. You know this probably isn't the norm in most people's homes, but anytime you try to challenge them, you are hit with denial, gaslighting. They flip things on you. They say you're selfish and look how much I do for you. You're such a brat. You're spoiled. You're too sensitive. I never said that. Like they will straight up just lie to you and be like, I never said that. What are you talking about? And it will make you start to go a little crazy and you will grow up really thinking like, did that happen or did I imagine that? I seem to have a good memory when it comes to every other thing in my life and my experiences, but am I just completely making up this whole relationship that I had with my mother and she was actually really perfect? It drives you nuts. It really drives you crazy. Even your own extended family won't always believe you because they are so good at masking that it's like if you don't live under the same roof as them, you're really not going to see that kind of behavior from them. I feel like a lot of our moms could have been actresses. Like I vividly remember growing up, sometimes my mom, she would change her voice depending on who she was talking to. And I remember me and my siblings looking at each other and being like, whose voice is that? What is going on? But they're social chameleons. And they will also use their good manipulation skills to turn people against you as well. Or they will try to get you to turn against other people. If they don't like somebody, if they got into a fight with someone in the family, they will come to you and trash them and get you to turn against them and tell you to not call them anymore and have you swear your loyalty to them. And when you're a kid, it does work because you're just naive and you trust your mother. But then when you get older, you realize how she is, and it's like, I feel like you were probably lying about what really happened. They're also not above playing favoritism with their children. They will get their kids to do their dirty work for them. They will make you the favorite just for their benefit. And once you are not beneficial to them anymore, they will push you to the side, and then they'll find a new favorite child, and then they'll take that favorite child, and you'll be the favorite for a while, and they'll have you do their bidding for them. They will have you kind of bully your other siblings to keep them in line. They will very much guilt trip you for calling them out on any type of negative behavior. If you cry after they yelled at you, something's wrong with you. If you needed something from them that is not material or monetary, you're spoiled, you're asking for too much. And I just want to say this: you are not a spoiled brat for wanting to feel emotionally safe with your parents. That is just a regular human need. And if you don't get that, it can definitely be very psychologically damaging. A lot of parents who are like this, their children have mental illness issues. Women like this are also very hyperfixated on their daughters, and they have this need to try to control every aspect of their life. They police everything you do, how you dress, how your hair looks, how you walk, how you talk. Sometimes will choose the after school sports that you do. You don't have a choice. You don't really have a say in much. Even like if they decorate your room, like you don't have a choice of how it's going to be decorated. They're going to decorate it the way they want it, and you just have to like it. I definitely felt like growing up, I was like my mother's doll, you know, like she liked to dress me up and make me look cute and like parade me around. And then once I got to a certain age where I started developing my own identity and wanting to do things my way, it was kind of like, I don't want to deal with you anymore. Once I got into like my awkward phase, like everybody does, I could tell like she didn't find me cute anymore. Parents like this, they really do have favoritism over their children who they think are like the most attractive. And that's why a lot of times they love you when you're a little baby and you're cute and squishy. But like once you're like awkward and in middle school or whatever, it's like they don't really, you know, they don't want to deal with that. Having a pretty daughter is their biggest concern. If you're not beautiful, it'll be their biggest disappointment. And they're also fat phobic. And if you do end up becoming heavy set, they will shame you for it. They will pick on you for it. They will literally look at you like you're the most disgusting thing on the planet. It's really sad because I know a lot of people who had parents like this. My mom was like this a lot. I went through a bit of a chubby phase, and it was like the most, like I was the biggest family disappointment because I was chubby. It was crazy. She would literally like point out things on my body and talk about my stomach and just all these horrible things. And it's just really awful. And it just creates so many scars that you carry on with you. But the weirdest thing is that they're so focused on your looks and they want you to be like beautiful, perfect, and gorgeous. But then once you get to a certain age and you are considered beautiful and gorgeous by other people, they start to resent you for having good looks. They will also compete with their daughters. It's very weird. They will accuse you of being fast or trying to be grown. When your body starts to develop, if you have curves, if you have hips, you know, they suddenly want to accuse you of having sex. Like, it's so bizarre. And they really are just like projecting their own insecurities onto you, because it's like they know, like, yeah, if I had a body like that, I would be out here being a hoe, or like I knew what I was doing when I was your age. And it's like, no, you were a hoe when you were my age. I am not. Don't project that onto me. And it's also very misogynistic in a way. It's like, you're pretty, you must be a slut, you know, like pretty girls must be just boy crazy and like wanting all this attention and doing all these immoral things behind my back. And that will like not even be the case at all, but they will accuse you of doing all of these things because they're just jealous of their daughters. They're jealous of their beauty. They're jealous of their youth. They're jealous of the opportunities that their daughters have that maybe they didn't. And they can also be very jealous of their daughters if their daughters have a good relationship with their dads. Now, when it comes to their sons, a lot of times women like these, they baby their sons. Their sons can pretty much do no wrong. Their daughter has to be this perfect child, but their son can make 19,000 mistakes and always gets forgiven, always gets, you know, bailed out of things. Daughter, it's not like that at all. Growing up, they don't have to do the dishes, they don't have to do chores, they don't have to do their laundry, they don't even have to do good in school. And I feel like sometimes it's like they're preparing their sons to be like their surrogate husbands when they get older. Like, I feel like a lot of toxic moms like these, they really like to enmesh themselves with their sons, and that's why they're not hard on them, because they don't want them to leave. I feel like this can really debilitate a son's self-esteem, because if you are never asked to do anything, or you are never expected to show up and try, or you're not allowed to fail at anything and everything's just kind of given to you, you kind of put like a boy in a state of like they can't do anything for themselves. And that's why a lot of them grow up to be man children. And I know that sometimes this is not the case, and sometimes these women can be just as cruel to their sons as they are to their daughters. A lot of these women as well can be homophobic. So if they have a son that they think is, you know, possibly gay or something, it can be really awful to that child and talk bad about gay people in front of them, like trying to insinuate like if I ever had a son like that, I would never speak to them again, blah blah blah, like trying to intimidate them, like don't you dare ever like live your truth. And it's just really awful. They don't allow their children to be who they really are. And speaking of being hyperfixated on looks, a lot of these moms are also colorist. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I know for me, it was definitely not uncommon growing up for my mom to say, get back in the house, you're getting too dark. You know, they will favor their lighter skinned kids over their darker skinned kids. They will take more pictures of their lighter skinned kids. They will show off their lighter skinned kids more. I even see parents doing that now. I even know parents who gave their children bleaching cream and told them that it was lotion. And they just have a lot of internalized hate in general. It's not uncommon to get a perm when you're very young. They'll put weaves in your hair at a very young age when you don't even need weaves. I know for me growing up, and even now, like my mom never compliments my hair if it is in its natural state. Because of these attitudes that she has towards black hair, I definitely struggled with my own issues with loving my natural hair. It wasn't up until maybe a few years ago that I actually started really wearing my natural hair out. Bell Hooks, in her book Sisters of the Yam, she talks about the importance of loving your natural hair, and for black mothers setting an example for their daughters by wearing their natural hair. And it makes a lot of sense because someone can tell you all day, love your hair is beautiful. But if you as a kid never saw your mother with her natural hair, you never saw her without a wig, you never saw her without a weave, you never saw her without a perm, and she didn't have any like hair loss issues, no matter what you say to that kid, they're looking at what you do, and that's going to communicate to them that you don't like your hair. Something is wrong with your hair. Okay, we have the same hair. Obviously, I come from you. There must be something wrong with my hair. It's just a lot of, generational trauma and internalized hate that just gets passed down. And a lot of bougie black parents like this, they're very big on respectability politics. They are very big on making sure that you are like the perfect black person at all times. They're very concerned with how other white people view them and view their children. And I know that stems from generational trauma that comes from the days of Jim Crow and all the lynchings and black people really living in fear and thinking, okay, well, if I police my behavior and I try to be like a white person, maybe I won't die. I know it stems from that fear of wanting to keep their children safe. I get that. But as a child, it feels like you can never be free. You can never be carefree. You can never not be thinking about how are you representing the whole black race. It's a lot to weigh on you, and it gives you a lot of anxiety. I can understand wanting your kids to be polite and have good manners and teach them dining etiquette, but there comes a point where I feel like as a child, you should be able to like be a little wild little kid and have your hair sticking up on your head and getting dirty, playing in the mud and all that. I feel like that is like so important. Moms like this, they're low-key just anti-black in general. Anything that is associated with blackness that isn't from like the 1960s and back is considered ghetto to them. They didn't want you listening to rap. They didn't want you wearing FUBU. Like, I know I'm old, like FUBU's not around anymore, but they didn't want you laying your baby hairs. I know that's like a really common trend now, but back in the day, not too long ago, baby hairs, gelling your baby hairs down was considered ratchet by a lot of people. I know. I remember as a kid, I wasn't even allowed to get clear beads on the ends of my braids because that was ghetto. Like, even at 7 years old, I was like, ma'am, this kind of thinking is off. I even know some people who were not allowed to get braids at all. And it's crazy because they will teach you to really hate yourself, but then at the same time, they will be very confused when you get older as to why you don't have a strong sense of identity as a black person. And it's like, you literally didn't let me participate in Black culture. What did you expect? And as you get older, especially I know for me, I've had to definitely learn how to deprogram my mind, because I know there are a lot of internalized things, not only that I learned from the world that we live in, but just learning from my dysfunctional family and these very unhealthy views that they had themselves. And moms like these, most likely, they have their own personal traumas going on top of generational traumas that we all have. Moms who are like this, who are colorists and perpetuate white beauty standards constantly onto their kids and onto themselves. That didn't come from them. You are not born hating the way you look. You are conditioned to hate the way you look. I just encourage everybody to just get to know themselves, start to work on yourself, start to work on that self-hate, because we all have it. We all have some internalized self-hate. If you grew up in this world, in this dimension, and you are a Black person, you have some self-hate. Or not even Black. If you are a person of color, you have some self-hate that has been taught to you, because it's in everything. White supremacy, misogyny, it has infiltrated every part of our modern world. It's in everything. And I think it's important that once you start to identify it, you can start to not subscribe to it. You can start to realize when you're being programmed. And that helps you from being even more conditioned to not love yourself. And it's not to say that you can't like different things, being a Black person, you know, like I'm not telling people, oh, if you listen to rock music, you're anti-Black, or if you straighten your hair, you're anti-Black. That's not what I'm saying, but it's getting to the root of why do you do things that you do, and why do you not like certain things that you don't like? Why? Just ask yourself why. Now that I'm a certain age, I can sympathize with mothers who are like this. I'm not saying what they did is okay, but I do understand it better, because I know how being a Black woman in this world and constantly being told that you're ugly, you're masculine, your hair is nappy, you're stupid. All of our moms cannot rise above all of that conditioning that you get in the world. And on top of that, if they didn't have parents who instilled self-confidence and love in them, there's just no way they were going to be able to do that for us. And I think this is why it is so important. If you had a mother like this, you have to start the healing process. It's definitely important to forgive, and bear with me now, because I don't mean forgive as in reconcile and let you back into my life. I'm talking about releasing yourself of that anger that sits in your chest and weighs you down and gives you that sickness in your stomach and makes you want to punch a wall. I know a lot of us feel that way when we think about the things that our moms did to us. But I did realize that there's no way that I can fully heal from this if I don't let go of the anger. Contempt and love cannot occupy the same place. Like they're opposing forces. So you cannot hate your mother and then love your children. There's going to be a mixing of those emotions at some point. And that's why I really think it is so important to heal if you had a parent like this, because if you don't fully heal, and that includes forgiveness, letting go of the resentment, doesn't mean you need to welcome them back in your life, doesn't mean you need to be cool with them. And I want to make this clear that forgiveness is about yourself. You don't even have to tell the person that you forgive them. If you are no contact with your mom, you don't have to call her up and say, I forgive you, especially if you have a mom who is in denial of their parenting. If they have never apologized or talked to you about it or sought any type of mental health counseling or therapy, do not tell your mom that you forgive them, because a lot of narcissistic parents, they are just waiting for the day that you tell them that, so they can be like, oh, I'm off the hook. I don't need to work on anything. I don't have to be accountable for my actions, and I can just go on about my life. It is about allowing that person to not live rent-free in your head anymore, because when you hold on to resentment and anger and you just think about it all the time and you can feel the adrenaline rushing through your body, if you hold on to that for years and years and years, it will eat you up. And I realize that when you don't work with it and you don't get it out of you through the healing process, because you have to go through the healing process first. You can't just be like, oh, I forgive them. No, 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 no. You have to go through the steps to get to forgiveness. But if you don't get to that forgiveness step, it kind of just sits there and it comes out in different places in your life. Even for me, for a long time, I was the complete opposite of my mother. I was so rebellious, you know, because I hated the way she was growing up and the way she treated other people. And I acted in the complete opposite. But something scary happens the older you get is you start noticing that you act a lot like your mom. You start having her mannerisms. You start doing her speech patterns. And the toxic behaviors start popping up. And you're like, oh shit, my mom used to do that. Or, oh shit, I'm dating the same guy as my dad. Or I'm creating these same relationships and situations with other people that remind me of my family. You have to heal. My therapist is always talking about, just because you forgive somebody does not mean you need to reconcile with them. It does not mean you need to not hold people accountable for their actions. A lot of our parents, at the very least, we have to set boundaries with them. Some of them probably don't even deserve to have communication with us, but that's a case-by-case basis. But I definitely recommend like learning to understand your parents better, learning to understand your mom better has definitely helped me to let go of that resentment. But the boundaries will always be there, because once again, if you are an unhealed person and you don't take any initiative to heal yourself and get help for your issues, I can't have you near me because you will hurt me, right? Hurt people hurt people. We cannot make people change. We cannot make people want to heal themselves, but you can heal yourself. You can work on yourself and work on your confidence and work on your insecurities. If you had a really toxic mom like this, if they're starting to get older, you will start to notice that they start to calm down and they start to be nicer. And that can be a good thing. That can be a relief. Sometimes when you start to move away and there's distance and you live on your own, they will become nicer because they have to. They don't have control over you anymore. So if they are really awful to you, you can just block them, right? Just kind of always remember like who your mom is at the core. And if she hasn't gone through any type of healing process or gone to counseling, that person's still in there somewhere. It can be hard because you see them starting to be nice again and you want to be close, and then you get close to them again and they hurt you again. And then you pull away and then they're nice again, and then you get close and boom, they hurt you again. And you just have to understand that an unhealed person will always hurt you. So there always has to be some type of boundary. Be the one to break this generational curse, because that's exactly what it is. And it's not too late. You don't have to pass this on to your children. You don't have to have this relationship with your daughter. You can fix this. Some books I definitely recommend reading, which are very particular to this topic, are Sisters of the Yam by Bell Hooks, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents by Lisa Gibson. She also has a second book called Healing from Emotionally Immature Parents. I'll put like a picture right here. Another book that was really great was Negroland by Margot Jefferson. If you kind of just want to more understand the certain attitudes that your parents have, that's a great book to read. Another thing that has also helped me heal from having a mom like this is removing those feelings of shame. Shame is such a powerful emotion, but it's one of the lowest vibrational emotions, and it's even lower like on the scale than anger. And shame is really powerful, and shame keeps us quiet. Shame keeps us from speaking our truth and living our truth and being honest. And so I constantly am working on getting rid of those feelings of shame. And one of these is posting these videos, because it's like, now I don't care what people think. I'm not holding on to other people's shame. I'm going to speak my truth and live my life authentically. But yeah, I just really wanted to like go more in depth with this topic and just like discuss my own experiences. And I just wanted to like help people feel seen and heard and validated, because there were just so many people who related to what I was talking about. And I just want you guys to know, I see you, we see each other, you're not crazy, and I'll see you next time.